Good morning, all. May I request you to be seated, please? We'll start the program quickly.
I just want to make sure.
1 minute.
Good morning, all. May I request you to be please seated? We'll quickly start the program. Okay, once again, welcome to you all. Before we could get into the main agenda, let me brief you about the safety protocols and emergency action plan for Intel India. So this is the typical building layout that you can see here. This is called SRR4. We have three portions here. The one where you are seated is the A wing. The middle portion is called the knuckle, and the top portion is called as the B wing. Now this building has 5 emergency exits, 2 in the B wing, 1 in the knuckle, and 2 in the A wing. The place where you are seated, this is called bum room, and this, as you can see, has 2 doors on the back and 2 doors in the front. The nearest emergency exit that you can use is the one which is behind this wall that is just in front of you. The alternate door that you can use is the one which is on your right-hand side passage. Okay, let's review our emergency action plan. In case you need to call for any unsafe situations, you can call on 5858 from the wall or desk phones, or you can call 6211 5858 from your mobile number. I request you to save this number on your phone. How do we signal that there is an emergency? We will have, as usual, we will have the visible flashlights and audible alarms along with the PA announcements. We already discussed about the emergency exits. We have 2 nearby emergency exits, one behind and one on the other side. What do you do when there is an alarm? We expect you to walk straight to the emergency exit, which is the nearest one, which is again on the back side of this door. Now the safe assembly area is very close by. We have our ORT volunteers and security personnel to guide you to the safe assembly area. Portable extinguishers, you are not authorized to use any portable extinguishers. In case of emergency, we have our trained ORT volunteers and security personnel to use portable extinguishers. Similarly, for the medical response, we have our own trained ORT volunteers and security personnel to use any medical equipments and duties. In case we have any individuals with mobility challenges, we have an area of rescue assistance near the stairwell. So you can go and stand there. Our team will come and assist you. Thank you.
A very good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Supply Chain India Conclave 2022. It's a pleasure to welcome now Jitendra Chaddah, Country Manager, Supply Chain India, popularly known as JC. JC, please, if you can come forward for the welcoming note.
Thanks, Parna. Good morning, people in the room, and all the people online. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening. I know a lot of people are joining in from different parts of the world here. But this is very, very exciting to see people face to face in the room here. This is the first hybrid conference we are doing, as far as Intel India is concerned. and hopefully we can continue to do more of them in the coming years. So very, very excited, and hope you guys are feeling very good in the room, that you will be able to do a lot of networking. And people who are online, maybe the next conclave we do, we will definitely make sure we get everybody in the face-to-face situation. So welcome everyone. This is our second Intel India Supplier Innovation Conclave that we call as. The first one we had in 2020. I'll tell you, that was an experiment. We were just trying, the idea was, how do we get connected to the tech ecosystem, the semiconductor supply chain ecosystem in India, and get us connected not only within the India ecosystem, but within region and global. So we did an attempt last time to put up a format in which we can bring all of us together to see how we can collaborate and work towards making all of our companies better from the supply chain angle, but also enhancing the ecosystem around us and make sure that we all can work together to take the ecosystem to the next level. So that was the attempt. And we got a lot of feedback post the conclave in 2020 from all of you. And it was some of the changes that you suggested, but mostly you said, hey, this is the format we should continue. And that is why we are here, and we are fortunate that we are able to do it in the hybrid manner, some face-to-face and most of the people online. So in this conclave, we have invited 350 plus our suppliers, which are also your partners. They are not exclusive Intel suppliers, but all of your partners too. And we are expecting at least 1,000 people in these 2 days to be attending this conference. So we are very, very excited about it. And not just the suppliers that Intel has, we have a lot of other partners within the local ecosystem that this time are becoming part of this conclave. We have people from academia, we have people from government departments, we have a lot of leaders from Intel, and a lot of employees from Intel participating this time. You will see a lot of them here. So we are very, very glad that we have all of this stakeholders come together for 2 days to talk about what we can do next from the semiconductor supply chain perspective. As we go ahead, I wanted to just share what we talked last time and where we have come as far as making some progress on things that we talked last time. If you remember, a lot of you who were part of the last conference, our management gave us a challenge that in next 5 years, Intel India should increase their supply chain capabilities by 10x in next 5 years. So we took that challenge, and we are in that journey. And I can tell you today very proudly, some of the supply chain team members are all here, and this is all their work, that we are 25% within that journey of 10x. Without giving numbers, but we are 20%. We have 3 more years, and I think we are on the way where we will be able to achieve that 10x goal that management had put forward. And actually, I feel after looking at what pandemic has done and the acceleration as far as adoption of technology, what the government of India has done as far as policy changes are concerned, we may be able to even accelerate that 10x goal that we had taken for the next 5 years. So some of the things that we were doing, we were supporting in the enterprise sourcing, we have moved into the maturity. We are now having a co-ownership of some of those tasks. A lot of you guys know that India is known for analytics capabilities, and we have a great workforce. So we have a very strong analytics team now, which is not only doing operational analytics, but they are doing analytics on some of the core pieces of it, which is spares in our factories and materials in our factories, analytics on that, right from India. We developed a very strong capability in the ODM qualification. Very proud to say you will hear that from within the vertical tracks today with Baman and his team. Bhaskar is here, who would be talking about it. But we would have the first high volume manufacturing capability or pilot started in in this year, 2022, for all the work, that they had done over the last 18 months or so. So a lot of those functionalities, for the first time, we have Fab technology sourcing team doing the sourcing analytics and the sourcing support, out of India. This team, was not there 18 months back. So those are some of the challenges that we were given to the supply chain team. We took them and have, done some work on it. The second one was, what can we do from the ecosystem perspective? How can we develop a very solid semiconductor supply chain ecosystem from India? You will see after an hour or so, we will be publishing a report that we have done with all of you guys have supported it. ISA has, front-ended it. And this report will tell us, can be a foundation on taking the next steps on what can be done in India from developing a very solid semiconductor supply chain ecosystem in India, which is inclusive of what we can do for fab materials, the equipments, the workforce, the services in the semiconductor space, and so on and so forth. So that book launch will be happening after 1 hour or so. So those are some of the ecosystem capabilities we worked with all of you guys to develop further. And the last one, this was again one of the feedback came back from all of you guys, was how can we collaborate to take so that we can work with some of the gaps or some of the challenges we have in the India ecosystem. And the pandemic, I'm very, very glad and thankful to all our suppliers, all our partners on how you guys supported Intel and other companies, during pandemic. You took off some of the load we had from the infrastructure, providing the capabilities that our employees and our support workers required, and took off some of the workload and helped us during the pandemic. So thank you very much for that. And our logistics team, I want to call out, they helped some of our partners to, during that pandemic when we were really constrained on the parts coming in and out of country, to use some of the best known methods Intel has and help to release some of the parts for you guys. So that was the collaboration that we did. There are many, many examples. I will not take much more time. But I think what this conclave does is, this is not the only thing, but it helps accelerate some of the work that we want to do together with the partners in the ecosystem. And one of the things now we want to do next is to have a more better structure. I don't know what to call it, whether we call it a consortium or a structure that we establish, so it does not become an event-only collaboration or few collaborations outside of the event, but we can continue to collaborate over the next quarters and years and so on. So that is what we are taking a challenge on. You will see that you will be asked a lot of questions. What is the right structure to form and take it forward? Okay. Now, this all would not have happened but for the support that we received from our management. We have a MRC that we call it, Management Review Committee. We meet them almost every 6 weeks to show them and take their guidance on what we can do from India. So here are the people from the management committee team that have supported us. So thanks a lot to them. Thanks to all of you guys who have all the partners and the suppliers who have been supporting us. And finally, the Supply Chain India team members, which I really love, and a lot of them are out here too. So these were the real, folks who really supported us to achieve what I showed you in the last foil. Okay. Now, but going forward, so what do we want to do in this conclave? Couple of things. The 3 goals that we have is, number 1, we want to make sure that all of us understand by the time we end this 2 days, where is Intel going as a growth company? What are our requirements? What does IDM 2.0 mean? What is our foundry services, goals and vision? And how can we get a support from our supplier base for that? So that is number 1 goal. Second, we want to learn. And not only Intel wants to learn, we all want to learn from each other's capabilities and what we have been doing in the ecosystem, so that we can leverage some of the best known methods and bring it into our companies. Right? We have 30 plus booths. You will see that suppliers have demonstrated their capabilities. So please make sure you can go through these booths. Not only physical booths, people who are online, they have booths online so they can take advantage of it. And we have vertical tracks after the initial 1 hour session that all of you guys are involved in. So have a deep dive discussions on in those individual tracks, whether it is to do with logistics and planning or systems and boards manufacturing, manufacturing supply chain and so on and so forth, right? And tomorrow we have some horizontal tracks, but even a product and design engineering track that we will be conducting here. Okay. So so this is basically what we are expecting. So to kick us off, we have 3 very prominent leaders. I don't think any of them needs much of the introduction, but we have. I'll just give you a couple of lines. People who may have joined this for the first time or may not know. But we have Kevan Asfarjani. He is our executive vice president, and he is also the global chief operations officer at Intel. Basically, he is responsible for all of the manufacturing activities, the manufacturing operations, the supply chain, the quality network team also reports under him. And he will be with us. He's with us online, and he will be giving us his messages on what he expects, what he's seeing worldwide, and what he expects from India. We have guest of honor, Mr. Rajiv Chandrasekhar. He is Minister of State for Electronics and IT, also Minister of State for Skills Development and Entrepreneurship. We also know him as an entrepreneur, technocrat, and he's a member of parliament in the upper house representing Karnataka. For some of you guys who may not know, but an Intel team is very proud of it, he has worked in Intel 3 years in US before. So just the Intel team will be very excited to know if you guys did not know that about Mr. Rajiv. And finally, Nivriti Rai, we all know her. She's country head for Intel in India, and she is also a vice president for Intel at Intel Foundry Services. She is a recent recipient of Nari Shakti Award from President of India. You might have seen some of that in the newspapers. So without taking much time, what I would do is I would call Kevan to give us his messages and kickstart this conclave for us. So Kevan, over to you if you're online.
Hey, wonderful. Thank you so much. Can you see my contents here by any chance?
Yes, we can see your content and we can see you.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Let me make this full screen. Okay, here we go. So folks, it's truly an honor and a pleasure to be meeting you all. And when I was invited to come and give a talk, I said, "Wow!" without hesitation. What a great opportunity, especially as India is such a critical part of Intel's success, and even more importantly, we are going through unprecedented times where the data growth is exploding. And what do we need for all that data growth? We need semiconductors. And if anything that shot us the last couple of years, whether it was the unfortunate, unexpected COVID situation, or the geopolitical situations with Russia or Ukraine, unfortunately, these things have taught us that supply chain resiliency and balancing that global supply chain is more critical than ever before. So what I like to do, folks, is to give you a little bit overview about what is Intel's strategy, what are we trying to do, and it's great that this is actually a very good collaboration and representation from academia, from industry, from suppliers, and of course our very own team in Intel. Let me start by showing you, this is an overview of where we operate, right? And you can see that And this is just our manufacturing operation, right? Now, of course, on the left side where you see the most of our fabs, wafer fabrication facilities, they're located in the US. We have had our mega site operations in Oregon, Arizona, New Mexico. Now, recently, we announced our mega site expansion in Ohio, Ireland, in Europe, Germany. We just announced that as well. And of course, Israel. And we had our memory operation in Dalian. Now, beyond that, we also have all the back-end operations in Costa Rica, in Chengdu, China, Vietnam, and Malaysia. Now, the future of our supply chain is going to go beyond just the traditional fab and assembly test. We're also going to be doing what we call disaggregated manufacturing, where we are going to bring chiplets along with Intel's core processors together and even package those into what we call wafer level assembly or the chiplet assembly. And that's where the advanced packaging comes in. And you see we are also having operations in Malaysia, expansion as we speak, and in New Mexico. And you see the numbers where Intel is the only company in doing advanced logic manufacturing that starts from sand all the way to the end solutions. That entire value chain is what Intel drives and owns and basically thrives on. That has been the foundation for Intel's business model for the last 5+ decades. 140+ locations all around the world. Certainly in the manufacturing supply chain operation, which I'm responsible for, has more than 38,000 of our team members there, spanning from technicians all the way to PhDs. Large number of suppliers. We have more than 5 million square feet of manufacturing space, and so on and so forth. Now, within this large infrastructure, we also have Intel India. And Intel India by itself is no small operation. Of course, to date, Intel has invested more than $7 billion of the infrastructure that's needed to really power what we call all the engineering support for our major businesses, whether it's client business for PCs, data center, IoT, graphics, AI, 5G. The foundation of the innovation and a lot of those capabilities is coming out of our operation in India. 13,000 of our team members are in India. Also, more than 90% of all of our product engineering efforts, one way or the other, they have roots that come out of India. We have more than 600 suppliers that are one way, shape, or form, they are operating out of India, and whether those are from engineering services, enterprise sourcing, manufacturing, supply chain systems, analytics, logistics, all these things are really powered out of India. And we grew our supply chain capability, by 2 times in the last 2 years. And you heard earlier, our ambitions are even more, right, moving forward to 10x. And of course, being a leader, with that comes responsibility. And the support for the community and sustainability is also at the heart of what we do. And supporting the overall power consumption, the water consumption, all these things that our mission and our goal as a company is to be the world leader when it comes to environmental. And India, one of our critical major locations, is no different. And last but not least, it all comes down to people, right? None of these innovations, these capabilities that really, the Intel product innovation really rides on the back, does not happen by itself. It's really the training and really the innovation of our team members, of more than 1.5 million trained AI for all of our citizens over there, is something that we are also strongly standing behind. So the message really is India is a critical location for Intel, and it's a big part of our strategy moving forward. So what are our ambitions, moving forward? So let me start by saying this is our belief statement. This is what we believe. This is our worldview, right? At the heart of it is the opportunity is tremendous. We are moving to an era of more than $1 trillion of semiconductor total available market by 2030. This is significant growth from somewhere in the 300 or so billion all the way up to $1 trillion. That is, a insatiable, growth that really driven by these 4 pillars that I have on the left of your screen. The demand for semiconductors continues to grow. In fact, some say it's like the new oil. If you believe that more and more people around the world are going to be using data, well, guess what? They all are going to need semiconductors. Therefore, you should believe that semiconductor growth will continue. There is also the need for continued innovation, and this would be, the driving of the Moore's law. 25 years ago, there was a belief that Moore's law is dead. Well, guess what? Here we are, and hear it from me, leading the manufacturing operation of the company. I'm working very closely with my friends in technology development. Moore's law is well and alive, and it has decades of innovation that is in front of us. Of course, enabling the future solutions for products is going to require open systems, and it really has to come down to democratizing our compute. That comes with software enablements. That means bringing the data to the edge. It means really bringing on solutions that our customers can be customized and use it for their own needs. And lastly, as I mentioned earlier, the world needs a more balanced and resilient supply chain. And this is really what brings Intel to be the leader to work with the communities, with the customers, with the governments, with industries to really drive and support the growth of not just the industry, but also doing it in a balanced and resilient way. Now, to tell you a little bit about what really is the core of Intel, it's about innovation. And I want to start with the process leadership, right? And of course, if you look back at the headline news, Intel, makes big bets in our process leadership, and that has been something that has really driven our company for decades. Now, 4 or 5 years, we have sort of gone into a path that now we got to regain back our leadership, and that's why we announced 5 nodes in 4 years. And hear it from me that 5 years, 5 nodes in 4 years is on track and in fact ahead, which is very, very exciting. On the left, you see our key process technology. That's Intel 7. It is shipping, it is ramping, yields are healthy, we're ahead of our schedule. Then coming on to Intel 4, that's our key product lines around Meteor Lake. This is already in early manufacturing in Oregon, and then we are bringing up new capabilities in our operations in Ireland, and that's coming along well. With more than 100 tools already shipped, they are getting installed, and the rest of the thousands are on their way for bringing up early in 23. Also, extension of that is Intel 3, then 20A, and then 18A, which is really our Angstrom era. And when we get to this Angstrom era, absolutely out in the 25, 26 timeframe, we believe, and we absolutely are on a path to be at or ahead of, the take on the crown of leadership when it comes to Intel's, process technology. So that's one element of the strategy, is you got to have leadership in process. But the process leadership has to be coupled with the leadership products. And our leadership products are really centered around the key business groups that Intel supports, right, for our key customers. We have client computing, and that's where the leading product on Intel 7 is Alder Lake. It's shipping, it's beating every benchmark, and off the chart when it compares to this competitive product. This is what leadership is about, delivering leadership products to the marketplace. And I want to thank our team members in India who played a key role in enabling this product. Sapphire Rapids is our next innovative product coming up for our data center and AI. And this is up to 30x total AI performance gain for our Xeon family. Network and Edge, Mount Evans for hyperscale ready, best-in-class programmable packet processing. Also, in our, ACG, this is our accelerated compute graphics, right? Ponte Vecchio. This is our high-performance computing. We are in the, into the industry-leading flops and compute density, accelerate the AI. This is where the disaggregated manufacturing comes in with more than 48 tiles of different chips, both internal and external, onto this one, basically, form factor. And lastly is our Mobileye. Mobileye Supervision, 11 cameras, 360 coverage. This is where the future and the growth of AI really powering the automotive, right? And clearly that's one of the strategic initiatives that I know in India that exists. So leadership products coupled with leadership process technology, that's how Intel wins. But when you have those, you also need capacity, right? And our good old, boss, Andy Grove, would say, capacity is strategy, right? So if you build all these capabilities, but you don't have the capacity at scale, right, you lose segment share because the market is growing, but you can't supply it. So we are moving forward at unprecedented pace to expand our capacity footprint. So on the top, you see the fabs you're expanding. I mentioned about Ireland, Israel, Arizona, which we announced early last year, right, in March of last year, soon after Pat came on board. Then we announced Ohio and now Magdeburg, right? Each of these is $20 billion of fab investments, right? But all of those are going to be coupled with this back-end processing, which is New Mexico for advanced packaging, Costa Rica for assembly test, Malaysia for assembly test and the advanced packaging. So Intel is going through an unprecedented growth for expansion of its footprint in order to support its process and product leadership, right? And you all know that, where Intel goes, it has multiplier of its economic impact because the supply chain and the ecosystem really surrounds Intel. If you look back at Oregon, right, when we started in Roanoke Acres, right, it was a farmland 20 years ago. And now go there and see the entire ecosystem of our suppliers have been built there. I was just a couple of weeks ago talking with friends in Ohio at the local government. They're like, we didn't even realize how big of a treasure that just fell on our lap because the phone is not stopping ringing. And it's not Intel. It's where Intel goes is the entire supply chain around us. It actually wants to support Intel because what we do is at scale and you need the supporting infrastructure. So when you're talking about ecosystem, right, it requires partnership, right, across all the key elements because Intel cannot do it alone. I talked about product leadership, process leadership. I talked about the open platform that's required. And of course, you got to have scale, right? Because this demand is growing so rapidly. And the customers that really are counting on Intel, they want to make sure that their growth is not limited by capacity. All of that has to be supported with the supply chain, and that supply chain has to be world-class. It has to provide the end-to-end resiliency, as I mentioned earlier, that if you're concentrated into one segment of the world, today, more than 80% of the world chips are coming out of Asia, right? So if there is a hiccup, if the Shanghai airport gets, shut down, or the local infrastructure gets disrupted, guess what happens? It impacts the entire world. Not to mention, people go out of jobs. It impacts people's lives. So this resiliency is critically important. And doing it all responsibly and in a sustainable way. And if you follow our most recent ambitions, We have said by 2040, Intel will be at net zero, meaning that 100% account on renewable energy, net positive recycling of water, and of course, when it comes to waste, when it comes into our energy conservation, everything at world class. And that's going to require partnership with the suppliers, with the industry, and the innovation, standardization, big ambition, big challenge, but it's critical. And Intel, being the leader, requires to absolutely partner with the entire ecosystem to drive this critical mission forward. And lastly, the opportunities are, digitization of analytics, diversity and inclusion, balancing of the supply chain, as I mentioned. But all in all, this is an ambition that we have. And I want to assure you, India is a big part of that. Now, I want to close by saying, why am I so excited? And I was mentioning this to, Honorable Minister, Chandrasekhar just before this talk, that, we are going through an explosive growth for data. And semiconductors are the foundation for enabling the data growth. And our IDM 2.0 strategy, with Pat coming on board, right, we're absolutely well positioned to succeed. Because at the roots of what Intel is all about is innovation, is technical leadership, and bringing on process leadership, bringing on product leadership, and couple that with scale. That is unstoppable, right? And in order to do that, right, having a global supply chain is a critical part of our success. A place like India, which has a very large market, it's got a large ecosystem, especially in areas of focus such as automotive and the mobile. This is something that clearly, we all have a job to do, right? And we're absolutely committed to continue supporting our plans there. We have infrastructure around supporting the IT, around software, around product enablement, around all the key enabling capability of products. I'm also very excited to see how do we expand our manufacturing footprint, either with Intel or our partners in India. So these are ambitions that Intel is interested to go pursue, because Intel is absolutely driving this leadership of the supply chain resiliency forward, and the world is counting on Intel. So with that, once again, I want to thank you all for inviting me. And now I would like to turn over to, of course, Honorable Minister Chandrasekhar. Thank you, folks.
Thanks, Kevan, for setting up a very strong context for us to start the conclave here, and also, encouraging words and the challenge. We'll take it forward from here. Without taking much time, I would like to now call in Mr. Rajiv Chandrasekhar, Honorable Minister of State for Electronics, IT, Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. I'll pass it on to his office from here, and then over to you, Mr. Rajiv.
Good morning. Good morning to all. And again, I guess it's good evening for many of you. So it's good morning and good evening from New Delhi, where I'm at. Thank you all for inviting me to speak in this, and thank you for allowing me to be to be a witness to the presentation that Kevan, you made. Thank you specifically, Kevan, Nivruti, and the team for inviting me this morning. Every time I come to an Intel conference, it feels like I'm in an alumni conference. So I just want to put that out there. I feel good about being part of these events. And as I was mentioning to Kevan some time back, it feels almost like I've come full circle. It reveals maybe that how old I am, but I started as a professional at Intel, and then it seems like life has come full circle when I'm now working with Intel to try and expand the India-Intel partnership in the semiconductor space. So anyway, thank you again for having me. Look, let me just start by I'll just make a few points. I won't take too much of your time. I know this is a very exciting time for everybody, and you have a lot of things to discuss. India really, I must say this, India from our Prime Minister down values the partnership with Intel. We hold the partnership with Intel as a very important strategic partnership in how we see our tech economy and how we plan to grow our technology ecosystem. And Intel has played a very, very important role, I believe, not just in terms of how it serves the world and the world of innovation in general, but in particular how it has been a catalyst for India's own semiconductor and some semiconductor innovation growth. So our objective in the government, and my objective in particular, is to see how we can not just consolidate that partnership, but how we can grow that partnership and expand it into other areas beyond design into manufacturing and the like. I want to say that we as a country are deeply committed to the digital economy, to the tech economy, if you want to call it that. And we are committed to significantly expand it. For those of you in the crowd, in the audience who are watching this, who are not that young and still remember India from 22 years ago or two decades ago, we started India's tech journey with the tech services business maybe about 2.5, 3 decades ago. And 2 decades ago, I was part of the young group of entrepreneurs that built the telecom infrastructure in the telecom revolution. So 22 years on, if you fast forward and look at where we have traveled as a nation in terms of innovation and technology, we have considerably expanded that pie. We started with tech services. We are, as you can see, in the pre-COVID, during COVID and post-COVID, emerging as significant innovators in the data economy and the internet economy and the internet innovation ecosystem. You heard the stories of all these unicorns and the amount of investment that is coming in to the innovation ecosystem. And adding on to that, there are other pieces that will expand the tech economy and the tech innovation ecosystem by way of deep tech, cybersecurity, and all of these areas, including Web 3.0. I just want to leave this thought with you without getting into too much detail that we believe that the tech economy and the digital economy is a very, very important part of India's overall economic mission, of our objective of creating investments, jobs, entrepreneurship, and self-entrepreneurship and micro-entrepreneurship and self-employment and innovation, and in a sense play a leading role in how technology of the future evolves for the world and the world's consumers and enterprises. Fast forward to 2021, 2022, you've heard of our mission to take India even further in the tech space and bring in semiconductors into that tech economy architecture. And there is a reason for that. There is a strong view, strong performance in terms of how we are evolving, how we are gaining market share, how we want to gain market share in the whole digital products, electronics, GVCs around the world. And as the Prime Minister recently said in the World Economic Forum conference, it is our mission and strategy to increase market share and be the trusted player in the GVCs of electronics in the post-COVID world. So we have established targets of about 300 to 400 billion by the year 24, 25, and then 25, 26 to about 400 billion, of which $120 billion of electronics would be exports. So electronics is one pie, and the strategic focus of our country in automation, mobility and communication, and the whole compute side as the digitization of government and our economy increases. Three of these things, along with the fact that we are going to be an electronics GVC player, give, in my opinion, a very, very viable business model for a fab, and that is in a sense backstopped by the $10 billion of incentives that the government has also announced. So I have in my mind no doubt that India in addition to its current momentum around the data economy, around the internet, around deep tech, will also play a significant role in the semiconductor space. In the past few years, it has been in the design and innovation side, and I hope over the coming years, as we patiently play the long game of attracting investors and getting the attention of people to India's potential as a fab or a manufacturing hub for semiconductors and a consumer of semiconductors of some critical scale and mass, that we will also be able to realize that vision of a fab in India. Look, Kevan put up that slide in the end, says why I'm excited. I would love to borrow that slide, change Intel and add India there, and essentially my slide would be the same. I'm excited too, Kevan, and to all of you listening. We live in very, very interesting times. We live in a time of great promise and opportunity. And my Prime Minister, my boss, always says there is a model that we need to follow, which is Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, and Sabka Prayas, which Kevan translates into all together, working together and in partnership to build the future of technology and future of India in that world of technology. So I think we seek out partnerships. I think we already have partnerships. We seek out where we have partnerships, expansion in those partnerships, and that is precisely the prism through which we look at our relationship with Intel. I'm extremely happy that this conference around supply chain for the semiconductors is being held and hosted by Intel India, which gives me even more confidence that the path that we have set out on is a very reasonable and viable path, and that soon we'll be able to realize that. Thank you again for giving me this opportunity to engage with you and to listen to you and listen to Kevan in particular. It has been an absolute blast, and absolutely enjoyed it. And like I said, thank you again, Intel, for making me feel like an old alumni. Thank you, Jai Hind.
Thank you, Mr. Rajiv. Thank you very much. I know it's a busy time for you too, and taking out time for this conclave, we highly appreciate your time here. What we'll do next is we have just one small welcome message from one of our sponsors or one of our MRC members, and then we will have Nivriti. She is in Europe, but she was kind enough to send us a recording from there that we will play, and her messages after a welcome message from our sponsor.
Intel is committed to accelerating the technology ecosystem in India. And over the last 2 years, we have been focused on developing supply chain capabilities in an effort to make India a global semiconductor hub. And as such, I am honored to welcome you to the 2022 Intel India Supplier Innovation Conclave, and encourage you to connect and engage with us over the next couple of days to strengthen the semiconductor ecosystem in India.
Very good morning, everyone. A warm welcome to Intel India's Supplier Innovation Conclave, 26th of April, 27th for the year 2022. I'm very happy that the theme of this conclave is Supplier as a strategic business partner. So a few things that stand out for me is strategy, business, and innovation. So what I'm going to talk a little bit about is how our partnership, our strategic nature of our partnership will drive innovation through supply chain. Looking at my very first slide, what I want to talk about is what does Intel and its value bring in partnership with all of you. All of us are aware we are one of the very few IDMs. We build silicon, its platforms, we package, we build our own process technology and create a software stack that goes along with it. That drives what is called the at-scale manufacturing. Today, if you look at the client platforms, about 80+% of the client platforms in the world is powered by Intel. Similarly, 90+% servers are powered by Intel. A lot of challenges are happening in the space of semiconductor requirements, capacity, as well as innovation. All of us are aware that software is a very critical component, and hardware along with it is driving innovation also, and it needs to continue driving it. How can that happen? It can happen with our partnership. I want to tell you a little bit of what are we doing in Intel in India. So going to the next slide, I want to highlight to you that Intel has its design center in India, which is the second largest outside of United States. So far, we've invested $7+ billion and have built critical competencies from, developing SoCs, various kinds of, IP blocks, platform hardware, software, driving architecture, validation software, to name a few. All of these competencies we are leveraging for building, client platforms I talked to you about, IoT, as well as a lot of AI-driven, products and processes, data centers, graphics, and network and connectivity. So many of these competencies driving many of these critical technologies and product. What are we doing with all of this that Intel has its strength in India towards the ecosystem? AI, to me, is synonymous to the digitalization that the world is driving. It's creating a lot of data, but the data can generate value through AI. So what have we done as Intel India? We have created what is called population scale solutions through R&D centers, applied R&D centers like ENI, as well as programs which not only build the R&D, but actually deploy the R&D. iRaste is a program where we are looking at how do we reduce the accidents or collisions that happen on the road. We have a lofty goal. We want to reduce the accidents by 50 to 75% and eventually zero deaths on the road. We've also been trying to say, okay, here is the R&D we are driving, here's the deployment, but we have to get our population ready. So we have many programs driving digital readiness. So far, between the grades of 8th through 12th, through partnerships with CBSE and many government organizations, we have trained 350,000 students on AI skills and various levels of AI. I was so excited to see some of the projects that these students have built that solves their own problems of agriculture in the villages. Many of these students are based out of villages. I'm also happy that we are not just stopping at students of all grades, 8th through 12th I talked about. We are also engaging with universities and partnering in programs with them. Another program that I'm really happy about is how do we get our citizens to be ready to at least use AI. AI will be in our lives. Either we create it or we use it. Few people will create it, but everybody will be using it. So for enabling everybody to use AI, we have an AI for Citizens program. And happy to tell you that our goal was in 1 year, we will train 1 million people. We have already trained 1.5, and it's been 9 months on basics of AI. So we talked about, programs, research, deployment, skilling. I also want to share with you what we are doing to enable our entrepreneur community. So not talking about all of the startups, but in the deep tech startups, we have 45 plus entrepreneurs very actively engaged through our program, which we call Plug-in Alliance. It's now ready for a 4.0 acceleration. And we have many partners that are driving this whole program to success. We have VCs, we have startups, we have multinationals, all part of this Plug-in Alliance that is driving many of these deep tech startups. We have also promoted a lot of manufacturing, IT manufacturing in India. To name a few, something like, PCBs, like education kit. I'm very excited about our efforts, which is very holistic in looking at how can we drive the ecosystem towards high tech, towards deep tech kind of engagement for solving our problems, for creating, startups that drive significant value for not just for India, but for the world. So have been in existence within India 20 plus years and are accelerating engineering excellence and technology innovation in India for the world. So let me tell you, where do you come in as partners? Our belief is, and many of you may have read a few books that call it out, but the way we look at in Intel in India is innovation and differentiation in a product is not just built by us as a company, but it's valuable supply chain partners. Your innovation, your contribution, your success adds success to our products, adds innovation to our products. And I'm very excited about your presence here and your commitment to partner with us to create these valuable, products and initiatives. Let me show you. I've talked about innovation, differentiation coming, with partnership with you. And let me show you where all those partnerships and innovations can come from. It can come from building the product and design engineering. It can come from putting the systems and boards and manufacturing. So the first two, blocks in the first stroke is about the products. It's about the design. It's about manufacturing. But besides that also, there is logistics and planning, where we have a great partnership with many of you. There are operations and analytics that can contribute to the innovation and value add. And finally, we talk about, sustainable and supplier diversity. A lot of us, are focusing on, EGS, environment, governance, and sustainability. That's where innovation and value add can come from also. So you can see, it's not just in the product, it's not just in the boards and platforms and manufacturing, it's in logistics, it's in operations, and it's in sustainability. How are we doing all of this supply chain partners driven innovation? What is the role or the goal that we have taken, and how are we leveraging, some of the amazing contributions you are making? We have put a goal for ourselves, and this goal started in 2020. We will enable 10x growth of our plans of supply chain contribution driven from India. Whether it is which suppliers, how much are we spending and engaging? How much are we getting ready in terms of our own people to create value with you? All of that in every single area, our plan was to grow 10x in 5 to 6 years. I talked about product design and engineering. Significant amount of value, whether it is in design, whether it is in architecture, whether it is in layout, whether it is in validation, is coming from our partnership. There was a time when a lot of people said, the value and the contribution coming from our ODC partners is not equivalent to our own design efforts. Gone are the days. I get significant amount of innovation through our supply chain partners. Not just people. We're also looking at high volume boards manufacturing that we have enabled through our partners. Significant amount of complications, innovations are being driven through these board designs and manufacturing that our Indian partners are enabling. Some of the other exciting engagements that our partners are driving in building this learning kit for education. That may not be as high a volume, but significant value for generating education-like programs and creating successes through that. Now, we all talk about what does the next generation supply chain looks like. A lot of data means a lot of analysis, means a lot of AI. I'm really excited about what we at Intel India are doing to drive supply chain analytics and build that COE that can help us get the most out of your contribution. Lastly, but not least, there is a lot of value add that we believe our local partners are going to provide us in terms of materials, chemicals, and supply chain. I do believe that you think of some of the large equipments that are required, for manufacturing, for example. I'm not looking for them to be built or, search for those kind of suppliers. But who are the suppliers that are already there that can enable us with our manufacturing, that can enable us with our packaging, etc. And we found that many materials and chemical supply chain people are available in India, with the kind of purity for the gases that we require and, many such, raw materials that we believe we can get many more of out of India. So clearly, 10x is our target and various segments is what we are looking at. We totally believe that growing importance of India is out here. Everybody can see it. And that's what is driving the change in the global environment. Many areas, whether it is operational, logistic, product design, engineering, everywhere I see tremendous partnership with you. With you, we will succeed. I want to end with my last slide, which talks about, how are we committed to build a more diverse, balanced, and resilient supply chain. An extremely rapid acceleration of digitalization of everything is driving change, and we are looking at creating differentiation in partnership with you. Driven by semiconductors to double the economy and enable 1 trillion coming from the digital economy by 2030. Intel is committed to delivering manufacturing leadership, product leadership, supply chain resilience, geographical diversity, you name it, all at superior cost. And we see India as a tremendous opportunity, and all of you enabling us to get to that excellence. Our goal is stepping up the semiconductor production across the world and never to get into the situation the world saw over the last couple of years. I totally believe that there is tremendous opportunity for local supply chain, for our partners to collaborate, innovate, and enable the growth of semiconductor ecosystem. It's not just one player, it's many of us. And we need to run way farther, so we need to run together. Thank you very much. And I'm really excited that, this conference is scheduled. We will enjoy the next 2 days. We have tremendous speakers. We heard from K1. We heard from our minister, Rajiv Chandrasekharji. And I'm looking forward to hearing many of you and, committing to partner with us to drive this growth for the Indian ecosystem. Thank you.
Strong partnership is required to fully realize the unprecedented growth opportunity of the PC ecosystem. I want to personally thank all of our Intel employees, suppliers, fellow travelers, and government partners in India for their dedication to strengthening the semiconductor supply chain. Welcome to the Intel India Supplier Innovation Conclave. I'm looking forward to seeing how we can collaborate to create a positive impact in India and beyond.
Okay, so this was the first section of our morning, theme where we heard from the Honorable Minister, K1, and Nivriti, and some of our sponsors and also the MRC Management Review Committee members who guide us on the supply chain aspect of in India. You heard from them. Now we are switching the gears a little bit. In the opening I talked about one of the things we worked with all of you folks was to create a report to assess India on what were the supply chain capabilities we have, and how and what we can do more to create a very vibrant semiconductor supply chain ecosystem. So we have a report here. When I'll ask Rajiv to talk from Rajiv Kushu from TI. He's a TI executive, but today he is playing dual roles. He's here as a TI exec, and also he's a chairperson for IESA, which is India Electronics and Semiconductor Association. So he will talk more about it because it's in partnership with them. But I would, before we get started, I would like some of the leaders to, send a message about the conclave, about, going through preparing this report, why we have, done it. So I would like to start with, Shaheen, who is online, to start us with. But before Shaheen starts, Rajiv, if you can come on the stage. Sambit Sahu, a lot of you know him. He's an Intel exec and a VP. I would like Sambit to come in here too. Gokul, if you can step in. You have been sitting for a while, so this is a good exercise to stand up and come in. And come onto the stage too. So what we'll do is we'll have Shaheen get us started for the second leg, and then we'll have Rajiv talk about it. Bruce, one of our execs and VPs, also online. He will talk about it, and then we will inaugurate the report along with all of you guys. Okay, we'll do that. So Shaheen, if you can take it forward.
Good morning, everybody, and good evening. I am really pleased as the sponsor of the Intel's India supply chain effort. It gives me great pleasure to really see the progress our team has made in collaboration with all of the partners. And this report that you will hear about, I wanted to thank IESA. They working with multiple industry partners, academia, prestigious institutes, academic institutes, government, Invest India. So all of us coming together for the very first time, having a baseline assessment done of the semiconductor ecosystem in India. You heard from folks of how significant the growth opportunity is for us, $1 trillion TAM by 2030, how committed Intel is, how committed India is to invest in this industry. And so having this baseline report, I'm really excited that this is something that we came together across industry, academia, government, really looking at the equipment, materials, and services. So I'm looking forward to that report.
Thanks, Shaheen. Before we give it to Rajiv, I saw Anil Kampana somewhere. Sorry, Anil, I did not see you before. I thought you got delayed. So can you also please come in? Anil is also, one of our vice presidents and works in the India organization. Over to you, Rajiv.
Okay. Thanks, JC. I think you already introduced me. So let me talk about the report. I think to give you some background, there's a story behind it. So, IESA basically is the Indian Electronics and Semiconductor Association. We have been doing the reports on semiconductor market for almost decade and a half, and we always talked about how the market is, how much is the consumption of semiconductors. So I was talking to JC and I told him that we are going to do this report, and this time it's going to be slightly different because we're going to talk about 5 different verticals, which includes consumer, mobile, wearables, telecom, and aerospace and defense. And then we did that report. We had a group of 50 people, volunteers from industry, from our customers, from silicon players, including Intel, playing an important role. Like Bhaskar played an important role as part of that group. And we started the report. And in between doing that report, and JC comes back and tells, hey, you have been doing this for so long. Why don't you look at doing semiconductor supply chain reports? So I said, can you repeat? He said, semiconductor manufacturing supply chain. So it took 10-15 minutes of him to basically understand what he's talking about. And then once I got convinced, I said, okay, let's take it forward. And the result, and if we see, we have been doing this report, talking about this report for the last now couple of months. And I tell you the result from where we started. Even within IESA, no one actually understood, including myself, what is this all about India, the semiconductor manufacturing supply chain. And then what happened was I had a meeting with Minister Vaishnav, who is the railway minister as well as the mighty minister for us. And then he said, while I was having a discussion with him, hey, Rajiv, we need 2 reports. I said, yes, one should be talking about the semiconductor report, which talks about how the market is. And we talked about it is going to go from $27 billion of 2021 all the way to $64 billion, growing at a phenomenal pace. And he said, but that's not all. We should talk about how we can become supplier to the fabs which are getting rolled out across the world. Already there have been announcements. How can we do that? And then I picked up the report and gave it to him. And he was surprised. So I mean, what I'm trying to tell is that JC pushed us, made us understand what is the importance of this report, and we kind of executed. I think all the credit basically for coming up with this idea, and then I did the execution part of it, but then I think that all of it, actually the credit goes to JC for really, I mean, I really mean it. I told it to Ashwin Vaishnav as well. So I think, should we go to the reports now? I think that's all the story which I thought it will be interesting to know how JC not only drives a lot of these initiatives inside the company, but he also pushes IESA to do a lot of probably his stuff and makes us to do a lot of his, so that his work becomes easier. So I think, can we go through the slides? Do you want me to do the slides or do you want? Okay. So how do I, the slides? Okay. So now let me talk about the overall. I think I talked about IESA. I think we have different chapters, which includes the NCR chapter, which we recently launched. I think it is headed by some of our members based out of Delhi. We have a Hyderabad chapter, very active chapters. Apart from that, the Bangalore chapter. So talking about the overall semiconductor manufacturing supply chain, if you see the market today is roughly around $180 to $200 billion globally. And this by 2030 will grow to almost $550 to $600 billion. So if you see, there are 3 big pillars of it, which is equipments, the manufacturing equipments which go into the OSATs of this world, as well as the fabs. Then you have materials part of it, and the third, the services part of it. And since this is growing at a phenomenal pace, today if you see our contribution, and I say our contribution, it's India's contribution to it is virtually 0. We may be doing some services part of it, thanks to LAM research of this world and the applied materials of this world. But then it is still the rounding of error, what I understood talking to both of them. So I think there's a substantial possibility. And since you know the goal of India is to have exports of close to $1 trillion by 2030. And while discussing, we see a great possibility of India contributing $85 to $100 billion out of the semiconductor manufacturing supply chain. If you further drill it down among the 3 pillars, what I talked about, the equipments, although we may not be able to supply equipments as a country, but then there are a lot of subsystems which actually can go in the, whether it is electric panels, whether it is the consumables which go into the fab, can be procured locally. I'm sure LAM research as well as applied materials are working hard along with Intel to enable these SMEs and MSMEs in the country, and which is our strength, to basically start supplying those subsystems to these players. And that will, I see a possibility of roughly making almost 10% dent into the overall market of $550 billion by 2030. Coming to the materials part of it, I think we do a lot of these materials in India. I think many of the global players are already present in the country with all the gases and minerals. And what I liked about this semiconductor manufacturing report is it basically ensures that not only the Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and some of the southern states, which have always been ahead in the revolution, whether it is IT revolution or semiconductor revolution in the country, it gives an opportunity to all the states in the country to play an important role, whether it is Orissa, which is rich in minerals, or whether it is Jharkhand, which has a lot of those materials getting manufactured. It gives an opportunity for them to basically start contributing to the overall $550 to $600 billion. I think that's where I would like to stop here. I think if I missed something, please feel free to ask.
No, I think Rajiv, you have covered, and I think Rajiv has been gracious. He's giving too much credit, but I think the most of the credit for this should go to all of you guys who participated in giving a lot of data points to it. I know personally a lot of people sitting in the room and few people are online, where we asked for the external agency who was creating this report to go to your team members and take the data from all the companies on what is required from India, what is available in India. So a lot of credit, to all of you guys who contributed to it. And it was not a job of 1 month, 2 months. Last 2 months have been just polishing the report. This has been happening for last 8 to 9 months. And I would just want to give one more data point. One of the thing when I joined the supply chain organization, one of our execs, Bruce, I think his connection is not working, but Bruce is, I can see Bruce here. But one of the things when I was asking him very initially, 18 months back, as to, hey, what are the things we can support you? And he said, can you give me a landscape of India from materials perspective? And actually, before this report, we did, to test the market, we did a small report that we shared with our execs and with Bruce and his team. And then that is where we started to push for a bigger analysis of India and what we can do from India. So Bruce, you are here. I can see you now. If you want to share a few of your thoughts, and then we will get to few leaders here locally.
Well, thank you, JC. I think that the outline that you and your colleagues are presenting map out the kind of opportunity that Intel is incredibly interested in plugging into. The available resources are vast. The template of technology across many different domains is already well established. For me, it's really a matter of what are we waiting for? The opportunities are large. The meshing of the kind of available discipline and focus with the way Intel behaves and responds is fine-grained and tight. And so I'm very, very excited and very eager by the opportunities in front of us.
Thanks, Bruce. What I'll do is, Sambit, I'll give it to you, and then Gokul and Anil, if you can share a few words, and then we will inaugurate the report.
Hey, thank you, JC. Really, the morning sessions have been very, very inspiring. I mean, very thoughtful, and I can understand the need of the hour. And I work on network and intelligent edge products. Basically, I think Kevin touched upon it, that edge is where the compute comes to the data. Compute comes closer to data. Wherever data is, and data is exploding, so we need to generate compute or build compute very close to the data. And some of the statistics that I heard that that semiconductors is going to double. The demand for semiconductors is going to double from 500 billion right now to 1 trillion by 2030. We all are aware of the semiconductor shortages that are going on right now. Couple of other data points, because I work on intelligent edge and network edge. As per market research, the two big events or phenomenon happening, that is artificial intelligence and communication like 5G and beyond. These two things coming together will enable, as per market research, a $17 trillion economy by 2035, $17 trillion. And the foundation of that, of course, will be semiconductors. And the second piece is, we all know that AI applications are exploding. Every day you hear about a new application, new use case that is changing our lives. And the foundation of that AI applications is, again, semiconductors. And the need for semiconductors for AI, the need for compute is doubling every 3 months. So you can imagine how much we need semiconductors, how much we need compute, how much we need all these application processors. And that means we all need to work together, we all need to buckle up. I get reminded by one leadership lesson. What brought you here will not take you there unless you do something different. So this is time, with all those opportunities as well as challenges, that we can all come together. We have immense talent in India. We can all come together, start doing something different, and make the world a much better world, which we all needed. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Great conclave, and I hope you have a great time.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'll talk a little bit from a product design perspective. There was mention about sand to solution. At the end of the day, in India, we have a lot of design talent. And we've always been asking, hey, what can I build for this market? Or what can I build here that I can make in India, for India, as well as global? What has happened with this vibrancy in supply chain in the last 2-3 years that I see is, there is no excuse for product designers to sit here and think that we can't build in India. That's what has happened. And with reports like what ISA is putting out, the aperture is widened. You're no longer asking for, can I manufacture this PCB or board? You're talking about a much higher order ability that we can bring in this ecosystem. And what it does for product design organization is it really energizes to think about how we can take all of the design talent in the country and build something that's phenomenal using the ecosystem and the supply chain that's available here. And we are embarking on that journey, and I'll tell you from my experience, from 5 years ago to now, I see a huge amount of possibility, and Nivriti talked about the learning kit. We've been partnering with a number of the supply chain vendors in the country here to bring something out that's really meaningful for a segment in India as well as globally. And a lot of that energy and momentum is thanks to the supply chain ecosystem, the innovation and the partnership that's happening here. So, if you're passionate about solving problems, building products, you're in the right place next 2-3 days, just make the maximum out of it. I think the opportunities are plenty here for us to go make things happen from using the ecosystem partnerships.
Thanks, Sambit. Thanks, Gokul and Rajiv. First, I'd like to thank JC for leading this supply chain conclave. He has been spearheading this supply chain conclave and introducing even us and leaders how we can partner internally to Intel. So really appreciate the effort. A very warm welcome to all of you as supply vendors and to our and to my Intel colleagues. I lead the Silicon team here for Intel. And it's such a pleasure that this drive is happening across multiple fronts. And Nivriti, as our country head, is leading this show, working with partners in government, working with suppliers, and working with internally to bridge and how we at Intel can make a difference in actually not just talking, but walking the talk in terms of making this supply chain a reality and how India can contribute even more. In fact, there was one point mentioned about materials and how a list of materials and like, for example, having pure gas. In fact, India is known for providing raw materials, but not to the quality that the manufacturing unit needs. So there's a lot of opportunities for us to really play a dominant role and an active contributor to solving this problem space. With that, I want to leave you with a quote from Sundar Pichai, which he quotes, to achieve an objective, let's be impatient, right? So this is an area that is demanding that impatience from all of us, both as supply chain, as us as product companies in Intel, and as the government bodies to achieve the solution. Thank you.
Team will not take more time. I think we have 3-4 minutes. So within this 3-4 minutes, we need to wrap up. I want to request, one more. We have supply chain India leaders. I would want them to get introduced and be on the stage while we are inaugurating this. So, all the folks, Harshad, Vivek, BP, I don't need Bhaskar, I don't need to take all the names. You guys can just, if you can come onto the stage, please. Pradeep, Manas. Come on, I should not be taking the names. I'll forget. If I forget one of you guys, then it's a pain. Later on, you will give me. Come on. Okay, and Bruce, Shaheen, we have copies of we will assume you are here, and we will inaugurate it, together. Come, guys, closer. Take this. Good. Thank you. And this is after 10 years. I think if wherever we meet, we will talk about the semiconductor supply chain revolution really started here in the room and with this report. So I'll look forward. I may not be working after 10 years, I think, and hopefully not. But I will definitely meet you guys somewhere, and we'll talk about this report and this event, right? So with this, we will wrap up the morning session. We have the vertical, sessions that you all are going to now participate in, and get some refreshments. We have been sitting for a long. Takes a 10-15 minute break, and if anything that you guys want me to say. Okay, so Parna is going to tell you exactly what will transpire after that. Thanks, Parna.
It starts with a spark that creates momentum. Momentum that allows us to reach new heights and better the lives of every person on the planet. A momentum to power the future of supply chain. In partnership with thousands of our trusted suppliers. Pushing the frontiers of Moore's Law. Accelerating Intel IDM 2.0 strategy for manufacturing, innovation, and product leadership. With multi-billion-dollar investment, One Intel team is committed to building world-class supply chain capabilities in collaboration with our suppliers. Intel India advances Intel supply chain capabilities in RM, R&D, test and measurements, ODM qualification, customer experience, analytics, fab tech sourcing area, to grow India's semiconductor ecosystem, in partnership with suppliers who provide us with innovation, speed and agility. We welcome you to the second Intel India Supplier Innovation Conclave 2022, a platform to create a win-win environment with suppliers, government, academia, startups, industry bodies. Strengthens India's semiconductor supply chain ecosystem.
Okay, I hope everyone is energized by this past 1 hour or 1.5 hours. It was truly inspiring to hear our Intel leadership, as well as hear from Mr. Rajiv Kushu, and see many of our leaders on the podium inaugurating the IESA report. We truly welcome all of you over here, and the session is just beginning. The next 2 days, you will hear many parallel tracks. Tomorrow morning, we start here again with the executive track. Right now, after a 15-minute break, we will have 4 parallel tracks. The track 1 and 2 will be on the right side of the room, on the wing, and track 3 will be right here in the business unit meeting hall. Track 4 will be on the left side of the wing. We also have many of our suppliers with their virtual booths and real booths. So please do visit the booths on Wing A and Wing B. It's a short 10 minutes break we will take. We'll assemble here in exactly 10 to 15 minutes. We'll start in 15 minutes on our live conference. There are refreshments at the back of the room. Lunch will be served after the track is over. So the track will be for about 3 hours, 3.5 hours, post which lunch will be served just outside the room on the right side. Lunch will also be served behind the room. Please do use the time to network with all of us. Again, the theme of the conclave is to share, to showcase, and to collaborate. So with that message, I leave you for the break. We'll assemble in 10 to 15 minutes. Please come back here. Hello everyone, just a quick note. If you are keen to participate on any particular track, like the logistics track, then it is in room number 101. Room number 101 for logistics track. Room number 102 for analytics track. Room number 3, which is this particular room, the BUM room. We will have the manufacturing ecosystem, supply chain ecosystem over here in this particular track. Room number 4, on the left side wing, is going to be for the systems and boards track, track number 4 for the day. Thank you, everyone.